is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf. Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors & Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old-school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors & Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors & Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today, a chance of showers this afternoon. Otherwise, partly sunny with light winds and a high near 52. Tonight, a chance of showers early. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies, a low around 26. And tomorrow, we'll see lots of sunshine with a light breeze and a high near 62. I'm meteorologist Kyle Hucker from 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Electrical Enterprises in Roca reminds you, the men and women of our military dedicate themselves to serving our country. Their commitment and courage keep our country safe and strong. Let us honor those who have lost their lives in the line of duty and salute those who serve today. This from Electrical Enterprises in Roca. For all of your residential and commercial electrical construction needs, call 402-438-5822. They care about our United States veterans and active military personnel.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now. In our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Welcome into the post-game post-up. Nebraska basketball just finished up another game. Hustle down to the block and get position.
Shot clock to 7. Hoiberg missed. Got his own rebound. Right back up. Missed it.
There he is. Garcia. How big has he been down the stretch for this Nebraska ball club?
10 points all in the second half. Now the lead back to 3.
Join 93.7 The Ticket to break down the best players and key moments from today's action.
Sanford a couple of steps from behind the line. And now Lawrence from the corner. He hits. And another eruption from all the red in Lincoln.
Not even close.
Now Creighton has not been able to hit anything. 0 for 8 from distance. Prager gets some space. He connects.
Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Here we gotta go.
Now to 5. Hoiberg kicks it out. Lawrence for the win.
It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, welcome into the Husker Hoops game post-up. Harrison Arns on the ones and twos. We got Nick Wyman to my left filling in. We will have Austin Orman joining us via stream because he was down there at the Vault watching the game live. Nebraska men's basketball, they get a win over another Big Ten opponent. They take down Buzz Williams and the Maryland Terps. 74-61 was your final score. You guys are, of course, welcome to join in. 402-464-5685. Certainly want to get to your guys' thoughts before we get to Austin Orman, but we do got Nick Wyman. Nick, I know you were able to watch the game through its entirety. What are your initial thoughts?
I'd say sloppy for 75% of it. It wasn't pretty at times. Maryland, this is kind of what you kind of say. It kind of felt like I was getting flashbacks to Iowa where, buckets, it was hard to get a bucket. Missed layups were happening and whatnot. But Nebraska was able to find an edge down the stretch. Was it pretty at times? No. But that's college basketball for you. Every team's going to have ugly games. Nebraska has had a lot of those games in recent memory. But you got to remember, this team won 20-plus games in a row, and they've been playing probably one of the toughest stretches of their schedule once they got that Purdue, Illinois, and whatnot stretch. And not only battling that, they're also battling the flu, which Fred Hoiberg pretty much said the day before they went light during practice before this game. And they did the same thing when they went to a game like Iowa and Minnesota. And it wasn't the prettiest games, but you escape with a win, chalk it up, you get a win. Braden Frager, he was able to kind of light a spark to begin the game. I mean, it was 5-0 Maryland. Nebraska was on. I was like, uh-oh, they're on another drought here. What's going to happen? And Braden Frager was able to kind of find that spark off the bench, and he was able to just unite the team, I feel like, because there was times Rink Mass was missing bunnies. Guys were making shots. Jamarcus Lawrence didn't have his best game. He only scored 3 points.
Frager was 7-0 run to kick things off once he was able to get his offense going. And we'll definitely go through the box scores as well in your comments. But before we do so, let's shout out our sponsors for the postgame show: Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, Lincoln Airport, and, of course, Berkshire Hathaway as well. All right, Union Bank and Trust. Get a great rate on 6, 12, or 24-month CD with Union Bank and Trust. Learn more at UBT.com. Again, UBT.com. Yeah, to your point, Frager, I do believe he was the leading scorer in this one. We'll go to the box score. It was a bit of a collective effort from everyone on Nebraska's team. All starters, for the most part, put in pretty good effort, but Braden Frager was 32 minutes off the bench, 21 points, 6 of 13, 3 of 9 from the three-point line. Perfect from free throws as well. One thing you really like to see, 8 rebounds. And we'll get to that kind of rebounding battle, but Nebraska was perfectly even there. I think they actually won it by 1. It was 34-35, but offensive rebounds was the same. 7 for Maryland, 7 for Nebraska. Shooting numbers, although it wasn't always pretty, Nebraska shot 43% from the floor, 34% from 3, and then they did all right on the free throws, but they got there 24 times. Maryland only got there 8 times. And although it was not pretty, as we say, at least Nebraska did a good job today of, when the shots aren't falling left and right, like, figure out a way to generate points at the line. And you saw that they were going downhill a lot more versus Maryland and allowing some of their guys to just get easy points at the free throw line.
Yeah, I mean, a grind would be the word to describe this game. It wasn't pretty, but Nebraska was able to kind of turn to a different gear in crunch time. And I think that's what separated them down the stretch. You know, Maryland had a lead when it was like 48-45, and it's like, okay, Maryland's got the lead, but Nebraska was able to kind of shift gears and were able to go on a run. And then that was what got them over the top. And in the end, you know, you win a game 74-61. You know, it's the Big Ten Conference. No games are easy. Minnesota played Michigan last night. It was a 10-point win for a team like Michigan, who's coming off a loss at Duke, but Michigan's been almost untouchable at times.
Mm-hmm.
But a 10-point conference win, a double-digit conference win, it's kind of like the Washington game, I would say. Nebraska, you know, did they play their best? No. But they were able to kind of shift into a gear there for about 4 to 8 minutes, and then they were able to just take advantage, and guys hit big-time shots down that stretch. And is it the prettiest game on the season? No. Nebraska's had plenty of those so far this year. But it's February. It's late February. It's a grind. The season is a grind, and you're not going to play your best basketball at this time. You know, there's going to be stretches where you're cold, and Nebraska's kind of had that for a couple times, but now they are just trying to find a way. And I see the blinker over. We got a caller over here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take him. But to your point, hey, Nebraska found a way to win. We can get into the details of what it looked like, but we're sitting here with a 24-4 record, 13-4 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and that's the second highest win total in program history, and it matches the most conference wins ever for Nebraska. So historic. I mean, the historic season continues, regardless if you're winning by 10 points, regardless if you're winning by 20 or 30 or 40.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get to our first caller again. You guys are always welcome to join in. If you decide to call, turn the radio down and stay patient. Otherwise, 402-464-5685. You can always text in. You're listening to the Husker Hoops postgame show. Who we talking to? And then go ahead and lay down what you want to talk about.
Harrison, Nick, it's Jake Sorensen.
What's
Early
up, Sorensen?
Break host. Gentlemen, good evening to you guys.
What are your thoughts on the game, Jake Sorensen? I'm assuming you were down there at it.
I just want to tell people this. I'm not bragging at all, but at halftime, Nebraska led by 6. They trailed by 3 points in the second half. I said Nebraska the whole time by 15. A late late free throws made that prediction just wrong by 2 points. So a 13-point win. I want to tell people this, though, guys. Like, the Big Ten is unpredictable. Last night, Minnesota was a 22.5-point underdog going to Michigan, a top 5 team in the country, and lost by 10. So for anybody out there that's saying, "Oh my God, this team is falling apart," I mean, number one, Maryland is a very athletic team. They're not a good team. They're 11-17 now, but they're a very athletic team. You saw it tonight when they drove the rim, very well, and they rebounded well. But Nebraska has more moxie. There is no panic at all for me on that win. I thought Nebraska did what they had to do to get the win by 13 points, and let's realize they won by 13 points. Everybody needs to calm down, in my opinion.
I think you're 100% right there, Jake Sorensen. It's a great win. I know me and Nick Wyman just read down the record for Nebraska. This is also a Maryland team that, quite in particular, although we didn't have it this night, that's partially due to Nebraska's defense doing their part. But this was a Buzz Williams squad that was playing some of their better basketball. And I know the record might have not indicated it, but to your point, these Big Ten games, especially at this point in the season, get squirrely, and Nebraska's just held on to that poise. Even when it looked ugly, I think you're 100% right saying there's no panic.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We know that Buzz will get that team figured out. They're obviously not very good his first year. They got some young guys. I love Mills, number 7, a good player. He'll be very good if they keep him through NIL and a portal this offseason. But, I mean, that team is just a pest. And Maryland has had some, as you mentioned, Harris, they're playing good ball right now. They just beat Iowa by 7 points a week and a half ago, and that's a great win for them. They just beat Washington last time out. So it's not a team that's given up on the season. Like, they have some fight. They're not playing for the postseason by any means because their record is so bad, but that's a team that you can start to see some remnants of good Buzz Williams teams despite the record. And I think that they'll be a problem in years to come because right now they're just not quite good enough. And Nebraska's so senior-laden that they can win with the win. And how about Sam Hoiberg? You know, you talk about Braden Frager, great game. Price had a good game at the end of the game, but 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. Sam Hoiberg is the legitimate Energizer Bunny of Nebraska, and he changes the tide of every single game. Every single game he plays so well and like that.
Yeah, you're not the only one that believes that. Every coach that he's gone up against so far pretty much has one comment towards the end of that post game or towards those press conferences at the end, and he just has those moments. I mean, he has played himself up to be one of the better walk-ons just in basketball history, the way he plays up there. Still leading the nation in that assist-to-turnover ratio, and then what he's able to do on defense, despite being undersized, the guy is just an absolute menace. And, Jake, this is the thing that gives me those confidence about the team, is as much as what people want to say, you know, maybe Nebraska's offense, slow start, looked ugly, Nebraska's defense is suffocating. And it allows Nebraska to still have these good wins, even if you have a little bit of a cold start. And that starts kind of with Sam Hoiberg, as he's spearheading a lot of that defensive energy at times.
Well, I heard this take from a friend of the station, Nick Baugh, a couple of days ago, that Nebraska is a nightmare to prepare for because it's not just it's both sides of the ball. And Nebraska's defense is different than most defenses. They cause a lot of turnovers, and it's just not easy to score against them. If you make threes like Maryland did early on the game, yeah, you can have success, but Nebraska typically defends three-point line very well, and it defends the middle of the lane well too. But offensively, like, let's realize Nebraska was not shooting like they usually do for the majority of this game. And yeah, they're down by 3, but was anybody in that arena panicked? I don't think they were, but knowing how Price can get hot and Frager get hot and Rink can certainly get going. And they proved that. Like, this team just keeps proving that all these doubts that people are just waiting for them to collapse, like, they overcome that. This is now 24-4, 28 games in the season, and not a bad loss. This would have been a bad loss, no doubt. But you've lost to Purdue, you've lost to Michigan, you've lost to Illinois, you've lost to Iowa, all certain tournament teams. And they've just avoided having those bad nights. And yes, it was not pretty at times, but this team is so confident, so poised, that they overcame their doubts and overcame a bad start and still won by double digits. And that tells me a lot about where they're at here as we get closer and closer to March Madness.
Not disagreeing with any of that. Jake Sorens, you got any final words for the ticket listeners before we let you go?
Yeah, I say this. I mean, for anybody that says, oh, God, here we go. No, calm down. They won by 13 points. They won by 13. They overcame a rough start at the second half against a very athletic team that rebounds the ball well. They can get hot from three-point line once in a while, and they won by 13. Nebraska did not play by any means their best game of the season and still won comfortably when all said and done. So be thankful for Fred Hoiberg. Be thankful for Sam. Be thankful for Price and Prager for being healthy. And the fact that Jamarcus and Burke popped the flu. And just, again, also just be hopeful that the flu stays away and that this team can continue to stay healthy and avoid injury with 3 games to go in the regular season.
Absolutely. That is Jake Sorensen, early break host. You can listen to him at 6 a.m. and get his take and the rest of the crew, Steve Sipple, Bill Bush, and what they thought about the Husker Hoops game. But I want to get these ticket listeners. But Nick, your reaction to everything that Jake Sorensen just said.
It was kind of what we just got done talking about. I talked about how Minnesota was an underdog team against a top team in Michigan, who has lost only to Wisconsin when Wisconsin made 15 threes, then to Duke this last weekend. And it was a dogfight throughout that game. Michigan winning that one 77-67. And this game was kind of the same. Good teams aren't going to win every game by 25 plus points. There are games where you're going to grind it. I mean, you saw Duke last night. Duke beat the brakes off Notre Dame, and that was the worst loss for Notre Dame since 1898.
It's just, especially with conference, I know that one's a little bit different, but that one's a bad one. But I know we mentioned the Minnesota-Michigan game. Like, we're getting to the point where this is a lot of times a second round that these teams are seeing each other. When you get to late conference play, people are familiar with each other.
And there's so much film out there. You have 25 plus games of film. These coaches study greatly with their film and whatnot. And they have so many practices. You see, there's so many Big Ten games. You've seen Maryland play against teams that Nebraska's played. You've seen teams that Nebraska's played that Maryland has played. There's so much out there that teams know how to strategize against them. And legs are getting tired this time of year. It's late February, regular season's winding down. Maryland's a team who's kind of playing with nothing to lose. And they played like a team like that. And you like I mentioned yesterday, you kind of see the vision over the last couple of games with what Buzz Williams is trying to do with this team.
He does this every time. It's just like he travels like 5 years, 6 years, next
and
stop.
You can kind of see the vision. Yep. Like, are they a good team? No, but they've played. Entering today, there were 3 of their last 5, and they beat a team like Iowa. And you could kind of see the Buzz Williams.
They're better than what they were at the beginning of the year. And that is the Buzz Williams year one process. This is like, it starts a little awkward. Players find their confidence. He usually has pretty young guys. And this is exactly the same case with this Maryland team. And sure enough, as the year goes on, I think it's a better team than their record indicates. But, you guys text some of the listeners are right. Like, it's not like that was a juggernaut, but that's why it's good. You beat him by 13 points. Let's get to the text line. We got Chris chiming in saying, starting to think that Frager is one of the more important people to get going for this team to succeed. Don't need the scoring, but the excitement and energy he brings really propels the team, in my humble opinion, of course. Yeah, absolutely right there. I mean, I think he had the fast break dunk that certainly got the crowd into it. He's definitely a home crowd favorite, to where he does bring some of that excitement. And I know Fred Hoiberg speaks at press conferences and where he had a meeting with him, just saying, I kind of want you to have your swagger back, for lack of better terms, and just go out there and be more confident.
He's a guy where, you see it tonight. He touches the ball and everybody's just like, all right, is he going to shoot this ball? Everybody wants him to pop it from 3. And it's just, he's an exciting player. Cause you saw, he goes down with the injury. He hasn't been as impactful after that, the rolled the ankle or whatnot, comes back. And now he's kind of starting to find that groove and get the, shoot shots from beyond the arc. Be able to get fast break dunks. And yeah, the dunk in the second half he had, was it an NBA All-Star dunk contest quality dunk? You be the judge. I don't know. It depends on what dunk contest you're looking at. But hey,
McDonald's All-American dunk contest.
But hey, it gets the crowd going, gets the blood flowing, and after that, Sam Hoiberg creates some chaos on some steals. Nebraska starts to find the rhythm, and hey, a win's a win, and that's what down the stretch of it. They shifted in the high gear, blew past Maryland, and on to the next as they head to the West Coast.
Yeah, 100%. We got Crowbait in here. Let's get some of the negative. He says, overrated? No, but we will win a tournament. Will we win a tournament game? Also no. And he says, wildly overrated? Probably. A few different directions there. He did say, he said Jake had a few adult soda pops. Maybe he did. They are down there at the vault. They're free for purchase. Well, not free. They cost you a fair penny, but you can at least get them down there at the vault. Yeah, I don't know. You can continue to think in that mindset. This was a good win. I don't know where that. I think most people are kind of off that mindset. I don't know. Crowbait just had to suffer a lot with men's basketball here in Nebraska, where he's just hard to get out of that mindset.
Well, they've only lost. They lose to Iowa, who is not a bad team. They're playing Ohio State now, and Ohio. This is where Iowa can continue to grow the resume. Iowa could be a ranked team by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Do they have some bad losses? Yes, but they are a peaking team at the right time. This Maryland team, not great, but they were peaking at the right time. Nebraska has losses to 3 ranked teams at the moment. 3 of them who have a really good chance at doing something in the big dance when the calendar flips to March, and then a loss to a team like Iowa, who could be a 7, 8, 9 seed, could give some top teams some struggle. I mean, in March Madness, if we've seen throughout the years, sometimes the champion teams struggle. A team like Florida last year, they had to pull out the abracadabra to win a lot of those games last year. And that is just what college basketball is. The most dominant team doesn't win the field of 64, 68, or whatnot. The most consistent team, the team to be able to just stack wins, was Florida the most dominant college basketball team last year? No. They won the SEC, yes.
They were the most consistent.
They were consistent.
When March Madness
and they won a lot of really good ball games last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Nebraska is going to win it all. I'm just saying you don't have to win. You just don't have to be the most dominant team, 30 games in the season. A team like Kentucky a couple years ago, Karl Anthony Towns and Willie Cauley-Stein, they were the most dominant team. People are putting them up against some, where are they in the ranks of the top teams in college basketball history? They go to the Final Four and they lose to a guy named Frank Kaminsky in Wisconsin in the Final Four. So it's just about being consistency. Like, obviously, would you like to win every game by 30 points? Yes. That's every sport.
Mm-hmm.
But just be consistent. Nebraska has won games winning, like on Saturday against Penn State, just winning outright. They had the game tonight where they kind of grinded it out. They've had games, Michigan State game, grinded out. And they've had games where they've gone toe-to-toe with some high-scoring games, like the Michigan game. Didn't come on top of that one, but they were able to be consistent.
Well, and I think that's the beauty. I mean, listen, Nebraska's consistent to the point where they've only lost 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're consistent if you're able to win that often. How dominant they are is another matter of discussion. And again, you're never as good as you think you are. I think that's maybe where people got when we were still undefeated and then we took our first loss. But you're never as bad as you think you are either. And especially when you just get a 13-point win versus Maryland against a team who I thought's been playing some of their better basketball. These are things you got to, take the win, enjoy it, and smile. We got films off of YouTube saying Arizona barely escaped a bad Baylor squad last night. Absolutely. I mean, this stuff happens. And then he also says, we are a Sweet 16 team for sure. I don't want to start projecting, but I do feel pretty confident. Like, I think at the very least, round of 32, if they hold on to the consistency. And that's the other thing you like about this Nebraska basketball team is you got a lot of faces to lean on. Frank the Tank with the Wisconsin Badgers that you mentioned back in the day, Frank Kaminsky, he was just consistent himself, and it was an incredible kind of run that he had. And he had some good players around him. But
Nigel Hayes was there.
Yep.
Nigel Hayes was there.
But it was just really incredible run by a few of those guys, and then he kind of led the train there for this Nebraska team. Going back to that consistency, we just talked about Frager, what Sam Hoiberg's been doing. You can't tell me Hoiberg hasn't been consistent in his play. Even a guy like Rink Mast, and shout out Nick Sainer down there walking in 93.7 the ticket.
So before you keep going, I saw the guy up here against the glass. I'm like, oh gosh, what's this guy doing? And it was Nick.
You can talk to him tomorrow on the drive. It looks like he's not pulling up. All right. It was Rink Mast. He's the one guy that maybe hasn't been consistent, but if he starts getting going again, it's just a tough team to scout for when you have all these players that you can't just count out. Oh, if we stop Hoiberg, we'll win the game. If we stop Frager, the ball's assist numbers are so great every single game. It's consistent. It's a tough thing to stop, and that's why they only have 4 losses.
And that's what I mean. People always talk about add more depth. Nebraska's already got 7 guys who can beat you in some shape or form, no matter it be scoring, whether it be hustle plays or whatnot. It's just a collaborative group effort, and that's what, like we saw with BYU. We go back to last night. Last night's college basketball was wild. AJ Devonta, the BYU team, they almost lost by 30 to Central Florida, a team was Nebraska saw in the college basketball crown. You have a team like Villanova, Central Florida, and Nebraska. Obviously, Nebraska is ranked, unlike the other two.
Well, Creighton just upset someone big time last time as well.
They beat the Creighton beat UConn.
That's right, number 5 week. UConn.
And now UConn is beating St. John's tonight by 25 plus. It's the world of college basketball. Day by day, we get the rematch of Gonzaga Portland tonight.
Yep.
It's college basketball. That's why you play the games. Texas is hanging with Florida as we speak. It's smart. You can feel it in the air.
We're not watching the Thunder.
Yes.
We're watching college kids, and it's, we'll get some of these, and I understand some of the frustrations. Like the slow starts, amen. I don't think anybody likes to see the slow starts. So we'll get to Cupsker. Says definitely one of the don't let the final score fool you games. That was ugly till the final 5 minutes. Definitely upsetting to start no scoring for 5 minutes. We got to be better from the jump. And yeah, there is obviously truth to that. If Nebraska wants to be more than just beyond the first round or a good team to be a great team, but you got to figure out a way to get out of some of these droughts that they go through, because their defense is good enough to put anybody in a drought. And we've seen that. That's how they came back in Purdue and some of these other games is they're so good defensively. They can just halt entire offense, but they've allowed some of these other teams, especially early with the physicality, to just kind of get them off rhythm.
And that's what Maryland needed. Maryland needed to get off on the right foot. In Nebraska, if you against Penn State, Nebraska was able, it was like 10-9. Nebraska goes on a 9-0 run, goes up big on Penn State, holds that lead to the finish. Nebraska comes out of the gate and just doesn't put the ball in the basket. And Maryland's just able to kind of build some belief, build some momentum, take the crowd out of it. Nebraska PBA, games 5, 7-0 right out of the bat. It's like, the crowd kind of gets out of it. You're trying to get a bucket to go in to get the crowd lighted. Then you mentioned the Frager dunk in the second half. That's what kind of ignited the crowd. Sam Hoiberg saving a ball out of bounds, throwing off somebody's leg. That is what gets the crowd back into it. That's what makes Pinnacle Bank such a unique environment. But the slow starts, I think you can't get away with that against. We've seen it against Purdue. Almost pulled off that miracle, but you can't get away with that when you're playing the cream of the crop because, Purdue, they almost got away with it. But if you're going to go down, almost double digits in the first half, it's hard to dig yourself back out. They've done it a couple of times. Indiana, Minnesota was a very one like that. But you also see Nebraska just not do that against teams like Rutgers, Penn State, who are near the bottom of the Big Ten. So you'd like to see Nebraska once the calendar flips here with USC, UCLA, and Iowa, kind of put an end to that trend because it feels like for the last couple of weeks that's kind of been a trend that has happened for the Huskers.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I don't know what that is. I don't know how you coach that mentality.
It could be like slow. They said they took a light practice. Maybe it's like
guys are getting healthy.
Guys are getting healthy, and yes,
but obviously, not great. And we got Old Dad 34. He says, explain how this win will help with the slow starts they have had in the last 10 games. It won't. The bright side is they found a way to win despite it. So, we can acknowledge there is a problem there. I don't know if it's going to be the one to sink the ship, depending on whatever you think that expectation is. I still think this team's very good, and I don't want to put term projections on them. But yeah, if you want to be elite, that's certainly an area you want to clean up because the defense is solid enough. You just want to make sure that offense is a little bit more consistent. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll go to break here. We might have Austin Norman joining me on the other side. If not, we'll have Nick Wyman joining me as well. We got some more of your comments. We'll get to those. 402-464-5685. This is the Husker Hoops postgame show. Nebraska men's basketball gets a win over Maryland, 74-61. They are now sitting at a 24-4 record, 13-4 in the Big Ten. 93.7 The Ticket. Don't go anywhere.
Want to make the easy call? Call John Henry's. From leaky pipes to a broken AC, flickering lights to furnace fights, even drains and duct cleaning, we've got it handled. Plumbing, heating, air, and electrical, all under one trusted roof. Proudly serving homes across Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas and ready 24/7. Visit calljh.com or call John Henry's.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And electrical.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate. Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Dio Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Dio Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diotech online at diotech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
It's basketball season, and Salt Mine City is your pregame and postgame headquarters in the Haymarket for craft beers and great food. Get ready for the game with their big, fatty 7-ounce hamburger or try a Reuben sandwich served on Blackstone rye bread. And don't forget their beef or chicken nachos with guacamole, sour cream, jalapenos, and more. Wash it down with one of their 12 beers on tap, including the popular Single Axle Light American Lager. Salt Mine City, your basketball headquarters, now open at 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 11 a.m. Friday through Sunday at 8th and R.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and on behalf of the entire Koppel team, we would like to say thank you to all of our loyal customers and employees that have allowed us to become one of the most successful GM dealerships in the country for the past 50 years. So we are celebrating that with some huge discounts. Right now, we have up to $13,500 off MSRP or 0% APR on select new models, and new Blazer EVs are leasing for $279 a month with zero down. So check us out online at KoppelCars.com. All deals with approved credit. See dealer for details.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100, or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top-quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in Husker Hoops postgame show. Harrison Arns, Nick Wyman celebrating, at least some of us, another Husker win. They take down Maryland at home in a convincing fashion, 74-61. And I know there's some comments saying, but it's a fluky score, a faulty score. Didn't really take off until the final 5 minutes. In other words, Nebraska, when it mattered most, put their foot on the pedal. I mean, this is a good win. I want to keep selling that point. I know some people are a little bit disgruntled by what was a slow start, and that is absolutely true to point out. At least they found a way to come back and win it. This segment sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, proudly serving the Lincoln, Omaha, and surrounding areas. John Henry's going to assist you with any service like electrical maintenance, installation, or repair. Call today at 402-809-1159 or go to jhlincoln.com. 402-464-5685. Sorry, him and text line is still open if you guys want to get your thoughts in here. And then, of course, we're still waiting on Austin Orman. He said the coaches are going long, so it must have been plenty of juicy stuff in the press conference afterwards. Let's get to 0368. That win doesn't give me a real warm and fuzzy feeling heading into our West Coast swing, but we have 24 wins in the season. Even though we haven't looked as dialed in these last few games, there's not a Nebraska ball fan on the planet that wouldn't have taken that at the beginning of the season, regardless of what it looked like getting here. Matt, well said. Nothing to disagree with there. I mean, if you were to say this what it was going to be on February 25th, that the Huskers would only have 4 losses, everyone would have taken it with a smile.
Before we take our caller here, I wanted to touch on this before you put him on, Harrison. So the West Coast Swing, they're playing USC on Saturday.
Yep.
USC's 18-10. They're a bubble team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to run you through what they're not a bad team either, but they barely beat Penn State a couple weeks ago, 75-77. They lost to Ohio State. They lost to Illinois. And last Saturday, they lost to Dana Altman in Oregon, a team who's in the bottom of the bunker in college basketball. It's that time of the year where teams are going to not, they're gonna struggle at times. And USC is on that struggle.
Everyone's gunning for spots right now too.
Exactly.
Whether you need to get a good spot so your
and USC's not
conference tournament you can get in, or just wrap up this season and set yourself up for a high seed.
And USC struggling to say the least. But that's kind of what Nebraska's ran to last couple Saturdays. Teams who are kind of on a losing skid, and that trend is going to continue this weekend. And see how Nebraska handles it on the West Coast. So let's get to our caller.
Absolutely. Let's get to the caller. Then we'll have Austin Orman joining us next. All right. Well, how about that? He just took off right then and there. If you are calling in, well, I'll say this. No more phone calls, at least for now. Maybe we'll open it back up later. But you can still text in 402-464-5685. Nick Wyman, we'll let you go because we do have our guy, Austin Orman, joining us now. He was down there at the game. Austin Orman, man, welcome to the Husker Hoops post-game show. Give us your initial thoughts of the game.
Yeah, good, solid win for Nebraska. Not pretty at times. I never felt like Nebraska was in huge jeopardy of losing this one, even when Maryland was on its run, was making some tough shots, some contested shots. Nebraska had a stretch there about midway through late in the first half where Maryland cut it to 2. Bryce Sanford did his thing, and then there was a big stretch at about the 10-minute mark in the second half where Nebraska really went on a run. From the U12 timeout on, really, is when Nebraska flipped things in the second half. Kind of not a major mess of this one for Nebraska. They cleaned up the rebounding late in the second half. 3-point numbers won't look pretty. But aside from that, it took a really hot shooting night from Maryland with some tough ones to stay in it. Huskers, I don't want to say survive in advance, but they find a way to win. This is a game, Harrison, that I thought was going to be maybe tougher than the underlying metrics would prove. I thought it was going to be because Maryland would attack the offensive glass and really beat Nebraska up there. Wasn't necessarily what happened in this one. I mean, both teams ended up with 7 offensive rebounds. It was more than made threes for Maryland. This is a team that does not shoot the ball well. They made 12 threes tonight on 36 attempts. Not a great percentage, but pretty darn good volume. They essentially broke even there. That's what kept them in the game maybe longer than people would have anticipated. So credit Nebraska for really finding a way to scrap through it. Braden Frager looked like he was himself again. Bryce Sanford had moments. And, this was just a, good old-fashioned roll up the sleeves, get to work, nitty-gritty, elbow grease kind of win for Nebraska. Now 13 Big Ten wins, tying the most wins in a conference season in program history.
Yeah, a lot of things to smile about, and that's kind of been my whole point of this. Listen, there's things to talk about. The slow starts, they're hard to kind of withstand sometimes. In a case like Purdue, because they'll start, it's 1-14 to start the game. This game, it didn't quite get out that way. But what I go back to is you just go look across the landscape of the Big Ten basketball and these scores over these past few weeks, and then other conferences. Nebraska found a way to win a game versus another conference opponent. And I think right now that's the biggest thing. When we get to March Madness, we can start talking about maybe the things we need to perfect if we want to be a legit contender in it, if we want to even think that far. But Nebraska found a way to win a game where it was a little bit gritty, and credit to them. They were able to get to the free throw line, I think, 24 times tonight.
Yeah, and it wasn't, the greatest free throw shooting performance from Nebraska. They end up just 18 of 24 for 75%, which is not as bad as I would have thought. 3 of those misses from Buchtenjel, 2 from Lawrence Wright, who was, clearly a little bit off, still dealing with some of the after effects from his illness. But, he played 32 minutes tonight, only knocked down 1 shot. It was a 3 at a relatively crucial time for Nebraska, but did add 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and I thought was a big part of what Nebraska did defensively as well, right? He was on the guards at times, but Nebraska also threw in a wrinkle when they were in man-to-man when he was on Elijah Saunders, who hit more than 4 threes in a game for the first time in his career. So, yeah, credit to Marcus Lawrence for playing through it. But, yeah, Nebraska got to the free throw line more. So for the people that are going to complain about some legitimately, questionable reffing decisions, not reviewing a goaltend, the bad over and back, questionable charge call on Rink Mass for his 3rd foul. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but again, this is finding ways to win. I think the without being too basic, the simple comparison to draw Harrison is back to the last time Nebraska played a Buzz Williams team. It was in the NCAA tournament, that Texas A&M team that was really led by dynamic lead guard Wade Taylor IV. And there were times tonight where Nebraska really had issues, stopping Andre Mills. Darius Adams didn't really go off, but a pick and pop, stretch four like Elijah Saunders with a dynamic young guard in Andre Mills, they were giving Nebraska some fits. They were hitting more threes than you might think, which is exactly what Texas A&M did before A&M kind of reverted, went back to its bully ball ways, and found a way to close Nebraska out by double digits in the second half in Memphis. Clearly more talented team at A&M than this one at Maryland, but with a similar blueprint, you can see, Nebraska might have found some ways to problem solve. And again, the talent discrepancy is certainly there, right? I'm not sure if Nebraska would have beat that 23-24 A&M team with the way that it played tonight. But, you got to pass the quiz before you pass the test. That's kind of what this Maryland team was for Nebraska, who now I think should feel more confident, in their ability to find ways to win games that maybe don't go perfectly to script for Nebraska. Nebraska had a couple big moments early in the first half, that big stretch there in the middle of the second half. And yeah, Nebraska, seems like it's learned some lessons from the last time it faced a Buzz Williams team. Buzz Williams was absolutely effusive in his praise of Nebraska and Fred Hoiberg, and really how this program has grown since the last time that Fred Hoiberg and Buzz Williams matched wits in that NCAA tournament a couple seasons ago now.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's great to get a run at Buzz Williams and the Terps for this timing. I mean, the timing of this game I thought couldn't be better. You kind of talked about it for everything of the Texas A&M game represented. It's kind of funny in that game. It was very similar to your point. Texas A&M shot the ball really good from three, much better than people anticipated at the beginning, and it kind of got Nebraska's defense in a funk. In this game, Nebraska's defense was good enough, to your point, with the talent discrepancy, sure, but the defense was solid, and that's the part that, as much as the offense I think can be frustrating at times, Nebraska's defense is going to keep them in a lot of these games. And if they can get to off of those slow starts and have that offense a little bit more consistently, well, then I don't want to put a ceiling on this team, because we see the defense stand out over and over and over again. Even this game with Maryland, you get close to the spread. I think it was like 16.5 when it finished, but a 13-point win is still pretty damn good in my book versus Big Ten opponent. And you got to credit the defense for, even though Maryland shooting a little bit better than what the numbers may have said, they still buckled down on defense when it mattered. And you held Maryland to 64 points. That's not a bad total whatsoever.
Yeah, no, it was a good old-fashioned gritty performance, right? Maryland made some tough shots, right? If Elijah Saunders was going to beat you by lighting it up from three, so be it. Nebraska actually held Andre Mills in check relative to what most of the rest of the league has done. And, Nebraska holds Maryland to just 38% overall, 21 of 56. Fred Hoiberg said it. This was based off a question I asked him yesterday in his media availability. I was asking him about, for Nebraska, when it comes to those extra possessions, right, whether it's takeaways or offensive rebounds, is it more important that Nebraska has a larger raw number of those, or that they're efficient with those? And he kind of rambled before I went into, if we get into a track meet with a team like this, probably not going to be a game that we want to play. And Nebraska found ways to mitigate Maryland's advantages. Not a huge Maryland team, but certainly an athletic, aggressive one. Nebraska wins the points in the paint battle. They match them on the offensive glass. Nebraska's efficiency numbers off second chances, 4 points off 7 offensive rebounds. They allow 7 second chance points off of 7 offensive rebounds. But Nebraska only allows 1 fast break point to Maryland. They score 10 themselves. Maryland does block 4 shots, but only has 2 steals compared to 7 for Nebraska. So despite some of the athletic advantages that Maryland had, again, with the dynamic lead guards that they've had, that Nebraska struggled to stop at times for the better part of the last 3 seasons, Maryland had its advantages, but Nebraska was able to find ways to mitigate them. Sure, they showed up in stretches, but I thought Nebraska did a good job of managing what some of its issues could have been in this matchup. And I don't have the numbers. Maybe it's more recent than I would have thought. For as incomplete maybe as this game,
and we may have lost Austin Orman temporarily, as his Wi-Fi seems to have frozen up there. I'll go ahead and drop him out of the stream, and if I see him come back alive on the stream, we'll bring him back in. I'll read some of your comments, though, and we may just go to break here so we can catch on Austin Orman on the other side. But let's read some of your text. Rick from Wahoo is a good quote right here. It says, Danny Nee would say it on post-game. It wasn't pretty, but we got the job done, and that is absolutely true with this Nebraska team. 9104 says, I am perfectly gruntled. It's a long season. This team is remarkably consistent. And that's my point. Everything I'm saying is listen, we can nitpick one or two things every game, and they're fair things to nitpick if your expectation is a Final Four appearance. But you're finding ways to win games, and we are at a point where nitpicking has become the thing. I remember doing these post-game shows. I've seen some of these texters before. A lot of you people, I shouldn't say a lot. There was a good portion of people that wanted to fire Fred Hoiberg at one time, and now we're sitting here in 2026, and we got a top 15 program as they just dropped to number 12 and only 4 losses on the season. Things to nitpick, depending on what your expectations are, which is totally fair. But we can also enjoy the ride and understand this is a very, very good Nebraska basketball team. We'll throw it to break. Maybe we'll get Austin Norman to join us on a final segment. If not, don't go anywhere. I'll still be here. 93.7 The Ticket. This is the Husker Hoops postgame show. We'll talk to you in a bit.
Have you been looking for home technology upgrades but don't know where to turn? Online information can be contradicting and confusing. Lincoln's own experts at Dio Technologies can turn your living room into the place to watch your favorite sports. Whatever your vision is, Dio Tech is ready to make it a reality. From home theaters to outdoor entertainment spaces, they bring you along through the entire process to make sure you get exactly what you want. If you're ready to upgrade your entertainment space, visit Diotech online at diotech.net or give them a call at 402-793-5124.
Hey Husker Nation, this is Todd Euler, 2-time national champion, here to talk to you about Window World Lincoln. At Window World, we specialize in replacement windows, doors, siding, and roofing. Whether you're looking to enhance the beauty of your home or increase its energy efficiency, we've got you covered. And here's the best part. We offer the best for less. Our team is dedicated to providing top quality products and exceptional service at affordable prices. We want to earn your business and make your home improvement dreams a reality. So why wait? Contact Window World Lincoln today at 464-7313 or visit our website at WindowWorldLincoln.com. Window World Lincoln, where quality meets affordability.
Eustis Body Shop started as a single shop in Eustis in 1979. Since then, we've been getting Nebraskans back on the road. We treat our customers right and have never forgotten our roots, even as we've grown to 8 locations across the state. That's why Eustis Body Shop works hard to ensure our customers' safety and offers free loaner cars to keep you moving. Eustis Body Shop, where our customers send their friends.
The most recommended Eustis Body Shop. That's who we are.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100. Or visit one of his 2 locations in Lincoln or Seward and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
A membership with John Henry's will fast track you to front of the line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call John Henry's.
John Henry's Plumbing, Heating and Air.
And electrical.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza. The big one. All the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend. Now back to the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket. Post-game coverage of Nebraska basketball on The Ticket is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, the Lincoln Airport, Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, and John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical. It's the post-game post-up on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in. Harrison Arns on the ones and twos. And we got our guy, Austin Orman, back, who was down there live at the vault for Nebraska basketball's win over Maryland. And again, a final score of pretty convincing fashion, 74-61. And again, this is sponsored by Lincoln Airport. American Airlines is back at Lincoln Airport, bringing new nonstop flights from Lincoln to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago O'Hare, starting in June 2026, with seasonal winter service to Phoenix starting in winter of 2026. Tickets are on sale. Now, again, shout out the Lincoln Airport. So, yeah, Austin Orman, I know we got some texters as well that we want to get to as we're celebrating another Huskers win here.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous to switch tabs and pull up the text line here, but I'm going to risk it. It was the switch over that got me last time, but we are going to go for it here. 89-85, I haven't filled out a bracket in at least a decade, but I'll be filling one out this year just to pick Nebraska to win the whole bleeping thing. That's incredible. Number one, I'm a little disappointed you didn't just fill one out as a casual just for kicks and gigs, maybe win a few bucks off some friends. But yeah, Harrison, I think that speaks to the character and the enjoyment that this group, this program is starting to really bring on a regular basis to this fan base. I think, that's just one anecdote, but it's pretty interesting. Rick from Wahoo with a Danny Me reference, 9104, says, I'm perfectly gruntled, not disgruntled. It's a long season. This team is remarkably consistent. And see, let's jump off on that here really quick. It's funny because it seems like there are times that Nebraska just can't get out of its own way. Plain and simple, right? They'll turn the ball over. They'll miss some shots, some open ones, some easy ones. And then there are times that it looks like nobody in the country could stop Nebraska, right? You could play 9-on-5 and Nebraska would still find ways to get open looks. I said this at the start of the year. I've mentioned it a couple times throughout the year. I think when you look up at the end of the day at any given game for Nebraska, the numbers will pretty much match what you saw. Right. I mean, I think it looked like Nebraska shot the way it did from three tonight, right? It looked like Nebraska rebounded the way it did tonight. It seemed like it was going to be close. There were times in the second half where Maryland was grabbing everything. Fred Hoiberg said as much. And then there were times that Nebraska completely shut off the water for Maryland. So the fact that Nebraska has been able to keep winning, not really go on a long losing streak, even as they've, hovered around 500 for the month of February or, from late January into this point into February, the final results have been pretty consistent, even when the play inside the games sometimes has some wild swings. Like Nebraska didn't score for 5 minutes against one of the worst defensive teams in the Big Ten. Like that, you can't tell me that's a consistent team, but then they poured on with the 29-13 run. They had a 16-3 run in there as well. So it's funny that, yes, I would say that overall Nebraska has been consistent this season, but it's hard for me to say that Nebraska, is just that road grader steamroller through the course of any given game, right? This is a pretty steady team when it comes to the ebbs and flows of its emotions. But, there are stretches in so many games where it's like, Nebraska, what did you do? Where did you go? Did you get Monstars, like from Space Jam? Did all your basketball powers get sucked into the basketball? And then there are other times they look like the Monstars, absolutely unstoppable. So yes and no, I would say, to the consistency point for Nebraska.
Well, I'll say a lot of this is, and this is true, I mean, every year. It's what makes March Madness. To expect the offense to be consistent and like onto an absolute point and click in every game. We're talking about the dream team there, where you got an offense that every night they bring it, they're hitting all the open shots, they're running their offense perfectly, they're taking care of the ball, everyone understands the assignment. Look across the league with some of these scores. It's a hard thing to do, but the thing they do have that's consistent where I push back is defense. And I keep stressing that because they can bring that everywhere, and that is something they can lean on to be consistent. And I think it's a big part of why they only have 4 losses, is that's bailed them out of some of these parts where the other side of the court maybe hasn't been as consistent.
It would scare me to see Nebraska go up against a team with a dynamic lead guard at times. Because Nebraska's defensive numbers, you allow 61 points, great. You hold a team under 40% shooting, great. There's going to be some team somewhere. It was Iowa late in that game, and I know it's not last year's team, but we saw, I think, it's the same scheme, even if it's different personnel. We saw guards like Desmond Claude from USC, Dylan Harper from Rutgers. You saw Kasparis Yakushonis at times, Bruce Thornton, John Mobley from Ohio State. Guards that can get their own shots, that have a quick first step, can still get by Nebraska. There's going to be some team that just spams their lead guard, puts the ball in their hands for all 40 minutes. And I think Nebraska will really be in a dogfight at that point. But teams haven't done that yet, and some of that's a credit to Nebraska for finding ways to take it away. Nebraska went 1-3-1 at a couple different points to try to wall off some of those driving lanes, force outside shots from a pretty poor shooting team. It worked out for Nebraska. It was that 1-3-1, I think, that ended up leading to one of the biggest possessions of the game. Maybe they started 1-3-1 and went man, but it was the Hoiberg tip into the Sanford deflection, chase down right in front of the bench. So the pass to Hoiberg under the basket, the kick out to Lawrence and the extra to Sanford, that really kickstarted everything. And Fred Hoiberg has said that, with this team, it always starts on the defensive end. The moment that I thought things were going to turn for Nebraska, it was off a missed shot. I could kind of tell from my angle, I had the perfect vantage point to see Sam Hoiberg lurking right behind Solomon Washington for that pick the pocket steal that he got to Frager for the two-handed jam. Maryland did a good job answering in that moment. But it's always started with defense, with deflections, with tips, with activity on that end that has led to good things for Nebraska offensively. There are going to be teams, 11 turnovers isn't a lot from Maryland. It was far too many tonight. Teams that just put the ball in the hands of a lead guard, that hunt the matchup that they want. Wagler from Illinois did that down the stretch as well this year. Teams that just mismatch hunt, let their good guard go to work, will naturally turn it over less, and I think could give Nebraska some fits. But Nebraska made its run with the dynamic guard Mills on the bench. Nebraska capitalized on those moments, did enough to put Maryland at arm's reach by getting stops when the other team's best threat wasn't in the game and by hitting timely shots. And I do think it started, with Maryland subbing Mills out, but Nebraska increasing its defensive activity, like their head coach has said, has helped them all year.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a legal pause here so we can just keep this thing rolling, because I know we still got some text to get to and a few more points before we go on and wrap up the show. So 10 seconds for legal ID. We'll be right back.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM for 93.7 The Ticket.
All right, welcome back. Just like I promised. Husker Hoops postgame show. Harrison Arns, Austin Orman. Let's get to this one from Isaac off text line saying, amazing season, just inconsistent offense. We will win a tournament game, maybe not two. I'll leave you guys project as much as you want. But again, I agree with you there. It has been a great season. And then unknown texter 5162 says, let's not forget that Fred's first year ended with football players on the roster. To be where we are now seems like a miracle, and I'm enjoying every second of it. And I'm a lot in line with that texter. And it's fair to nitpick certain things, but I just can't stress that part enough of we're still in a really good spot. And in this game with Maryland, I always look at the defense, but even offensively, it's good to see guys like Frager catch his mojo. And if you can get that 3-game bye in the Big Ten tournament, even a guy like Greg Best, I just think with him and some of the others that play a lot of high minutes, even a guy like Sam Hoiberg, I know he always looks like he's ready to play for 100 minutes, but he could use the rest for how hard he works. And this was another step in that direction to get the rest that they deserve and maybe might need as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the triple bye still being attainable for Nebraska is huge because of the rotation that they've gone to. We saw some Jared Garcia minutes earlier in this one, but I think that's where the rotation ended. I think Nebraska, they did just end up going those 8 guys deep with only 8 minutes from Jacobson and 7 from Garcia. Off the bench is all that Nebraska had. I'll answer this from Isaac because I was actually looking this up earlier today, and this is not down to the nitty gritty at all, right? This is the entire forest. This isn't digging into the individual trees. But Bart Torvik has a really fun resume comparison tool, but also an efficiency profile tool, right? And so for where Nebraska is at right now, with an adjusted offensive rating of 116.6 and an adjusted defensive rating of 87.1, the other teams that are in this list, you have 2 5 seeds, you have an 8 seed, a 9 seed, but you have 1, 2, 3 seeds, you have a 1 seed, and you have a 2 seed in that mix for teams that score and defend at similar rates to Nebraska. In that entire list, there are 2 round of 32 exits, 1 round of 64 exit, 3 Elite 8 teams, and 3 Sweet 16 teams. Again, that's just seeing the forest, but teams that have the statistical profile that Nebraska does have, in the last 15 years, more consistently been a second weekend team than a, win one, lose one in the NCAA tournament team. So just keep that in mind, right? Again, for all the stops and starts that Nebraska has had. This is why Nick Wyman and I went over this just yesterday on Old School. There is not a flawless team in college basketball. Nebraska is not flawless, right? I don't want to spend so much time nitpicking their flaws. Could this get them beat? Could this get them beat? When Nebraska has as good a chance as it has ever had, maybe the best chance it's ever had, sans the 3 seed season when they lost to Xavier in Minneapolis, to make a run in the NCAA tournament, whatever that run is. Maybe it's a 100-meter dash, maybe it's a 200, maybe it's a marathon at the end of the year. We'll end up having to see it. But, if Nebraska is going to make that run, getting the triple bye would probably give Nebraska the best chance to improve its seed line from, the low 3s up to one of the better seeded 3s. Or if everything breaks right, if Nebraska ends up making it to the Big Ten finals, and depending on how, I would say especially the Big 12 tournament goes, potentially the Big East tournament as well, there's a non-zero chance that if Nebraska handles business at the end of the regular season and gets a triple bye, gets rested, and can play, some of its best basketball in Chicago, there's a non-zero chance that Nebraska is able, to not just put some breathing room between itself and the 4 line, but maybe even start sniffing that 2 line again. I'm not predicting it to happen, but Nebraska is in overall a really good position with where it sits right now.
Well, and there's just so much chaos left to unfold. I mean, we're seeing it go. Ask Michigan about Minnesota. I mean, there's certain games that are going to be surprises before we get to the end of all this. Some of them before the regular season, some of them within these conference tournaments to shake all this stuff up. And there's always a few teams that vastly improve or drastically, make worse where their current seating is at. So a lot on the table there. Austin, was there anything that really stuck out to you in the press conference that maybe is not there on social media yet?
Sorry, before we get there, couple of texts here. Frank says Nebraska started the game shooting a lot of threes they weren't falling. In order to be a really good team, Nebraska needs to get points in the paint. Nebraska did that in the second half and pulled away. We talked about that a little bit, but let's also not discount the fact that Nebraska got 2 step-in, walk-in, butt-naked open threes for Price Sanford that rattled in and out. I think Lawrence had one that rattled in and out, and Mast had a good miss at one point in there as well. It's the easy thing to say with a Nebraska team that shoots as many threes as it does. Buzz Williams credited his team for keeping Nebraska well below its normal 3-point volume. Yeah. And Harrison, I still think that fans are adjusting to that, in that, when the threes aren't falling, that's the easy thing to say. And Frank, I don't want to pick on you, right? Because you're not necessarily wrong, and I'll work back to how you're right here in a minute. But when a team shoots as many threes as Nebraska does, just by nature, there are going to be more empty possessions. The trade-off is you need fewer, full possessions to make the math work in your favor, or at least be able to hang in there in the game and give yourself a chance on the margins, right? We know Nebraska's not huge. We know Nebraska doesn't have the ability to score in the paint at will, right? Nebraska's not Arizona bullying teams. Nebraska's not Michigan. Nebraska doesn't have a Michael Brown at Louisville or a hugely dynamic lead guard creator, which might hold it back, but also might play into the way that Nebraska wants to play, right? There are going to be some misses from three. That's part of the system. That's part of the formula. Yes, Nebraska would rather shoot 40% from three than what the 33% it ended up shooting today, 10 to 29, 34%, right? That's bang on break even for Nebraska. It's just a style of how this team plays. But I did think the first key moment in this game, to Frank's point, is when the threes weren't falling. Nebraska found a matchup with Bryce Sanford in the first half, and on 4 out of 5 possessions, they got him going downhill. It was a cut that led to 2 made free throws for Sanford. It was a made layup. It was a Sanford kick-out 3 to Hoiberg in the corner for 3. Hoiberg split a pair of free throws, and then Buikenjam got fouled on a Sanford drive to go to the line. I think that was the trip that he knocked both of them down with. So, yes, I won't argue that maybe sometimes Nebraska can settle, but I also don't want fans to continue to think that, well, all Nebraska does is miss threes. All they do is chuck. No, part of why Nebraska shoots so many threes is because it doesn't have that dynamic lead guard. So they need the threat of the three to open up the space on the court for the cuts, the ball movement, the player movement to result in some of those backdoor cuts or pull the help side defender that 1 or 2 extra steps away from the rim, so that if you finally do get a guy downhill off of a good screen or a nice backdoor cut, there's more room at the rim for Nebraska to finish, which this team, pretty desperately needs.
Not going to push back on that whatsoever. I think you're absolutely right. I want to get you any main things that we may have missed here. And then any texters, too, if you want any last second comments, feel free. 402-464-5685. And then we will have Raps Good Take on Sports. I'm sure he'll talk some Husker Hoops as well, so you can keep them chiming in.
Yeah, I'll credit Braden Frager. Fred Hoiberg says he's as healthy as he's been since the ankle injury. Scored his most points since the ankle injury. It wasn't a hugely efficient day for Frager. I mean, he was 6 of 13, just 3 of 9 from 3. 6 of 6 at the free throw line. Great. 8 rebounds. Great. But the important part of the Braden Frager experience, if you will, today, he was the spark that woke Nebraska up. He scored the first points off of hustle and getting in transition, getting to the free throw line. Had another steal. Finished a really tough, high-arcing lefty layup, hit a 3. I think he scored 7 of Nebraska's first 10 points, with a Sanford 3 being the other set of points. And then he did it again in the second half, right? He was active defensively. He got Nebraska out in transition. He hit another 3 or 2 kind of in that mid-stretch to get Nebraska going. And so, 21 points on 13 shots, that's fine. 3 and 9 from 3, broke even, did what he needed to do. But put the numbers aside, this was the Braden Frager that Nebraska needs, right? When things are not going its way, this is where the X factor nature of Braden Frager really comes into play, because he can create his own offense a little bit, because he can disrupt that rhythm of the game, because he can kind of be that defibrillator for Nebraska at times, right? Nebraska took Buikenjam out and put Frager in. He was the first sub. He kind of shocked Nebraska back to life. And again, Nebraska didn't get horrible looks early on. They just didn't go down. Frager's ability to just flat out make a play sometimes is exactly what Nebraska needs. On the flip side of that, didn't that used to be Rink Mast for this team? They would go to him in those big moments. They would go to him for some of those looks. I'm officially a little concerned about Rink Mast. It seems like he's in his own head when it comes to his lack of athleticism. His post moves are just slow and contested. When it seems like he has an advantage, he'll give it right back up, like he's trying to do a little bit too much. There were 3 or 4 times that I thought Rink Mast, could have taken the ball, gone straight up with it. He didn't do it. He waited, he put it on the floor, let the help rotate back over. He had Diggy Coit switched onto him at one point. Dude, I think he's listed at 5'10". Sure didn't look like it next to the 6'9", 6'10" Rink Mast. And as soon as Rink Mast touched the ball, he whipped it cross court to Sanford for a 3, which again, not a bad look. Relatively open corner 3 for Sanford. That's fine. But holy smokes, you have the shortest guy on the court, the shortest guy on either roster matched up onto you. You don't even look to score. It just seems like something is a little bit off with Rink Mast, his processing, his spatial awareness. And again, he's an upperclassman. He doesn't need to be at his best right now. But for Nebraska to be at its best, Rink Mast needs to be at his best. And maybe there was going to be that breakthrough moment before he got saddled with that really bad charge call where Adams just kind of threw his body backwards. That was right after Mast had hit a 3. And then it seemed like Maryland's aggression and length in the paint did kind of bother him at times. So I'm ever so slightly concerned about Rink Mast getting that back, because I think Nebraska needs him to be productive in order to move on and advance as far as the Huskers want to go. But again, that's kind of nitpicking, right? I and others have gotten, not really barked at by Fred Hoiberg, but kind of gotten some dismissive answers. It's Rink Mast. He's fine. He'll figure it out, which I don't think it's wrong to raise the question for a guy that, has been as important to Nebraska's success as he has been. They need him to get going a little bit more efficiently. But until Fred Hoiberg says he's not, he's done worrying about Rink Mast, I guess I'll be done worrying about Rink Mast too. At the end of the day, I know we'll let Raf have his moment as well. Appreciate him letting us go a little long here. It's a 13-point win. Nebraska wins both halves. They work through some of the issues. They find a way to win the last, home game before you pull out all the stops. It's the West Coast road trip that Fred Hoiberg is excited for, a chance for the team to, reunite, get close together, hopefully stay healthy on the trip. And then you come back home, for the final game of the year. You pour all your chips into the Iowa game and see where you're at in the Big Ten standings. I am really excited for a week from Sunday to see just how buzzing Pinnacle Bank Arena will be for Senior Day for Sam Hoiberg, Senior Day for Rink Mast, among others, with revenge on the mind against Iowa. I think PBA should be buzzing. Nebraska can't look ahead to it. 2 interesting games out in California. But man, taking care of business in the last, I would say real home game before the all bets are off home game against Iowa, just kind of move on.
Couldn't say it any better myself. Yeah, it's been a hell of a journey there. And there's some things that we can continue to talk about, and we'll save some of that for tomorrow. Some of it was myself and Chris off. We'll go ahead and let Austin Orman go. Appreciate him, as always, for his coverage of Husker Hoops. And one more time, I want to shout out our sponsors, of course, Union Bank in Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport. We celebrate another Husker basketball win as they take down Maryland 74-61. Official record 24-4, 13-4 in the Big Ten. Appreciate you listening. Don't go anywhere. Raf's Good Take on Sports up next.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs.